Sound check, July 7th, Municipal Heritage Committee, sound check 1. Sound check, July 7th, sound check, July 7th, Municipal Heritage Committee, sound check.
Madam Chair, it's 9:30 and we are live.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee to order. Please be advised that our meetings are webcast live by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the city's website. Presentations and reports considered at this meeting are available on the city's website, and members of the public can contact the clerk's office to acquire documents in an alternative format. As we move forward into our roll call, if you are present, if you could just acknowledge that you're there. Councillor Pearson.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Janice Brown.
Present.
Karen Burke.
Present.
Graham Carroll.
Present.
Charles Dimitri.
Present.
Lynn Lundstead. Robin McKee. He's not here today. Timothy Ritchie. And Will Rosart. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, under delegation requests, item 6, we have 6.1, which has been changed from today's meeting to a future meeting, and that is a request from Dr. S. Sheehan respecting the introduction to the Lansdale Neighborhood Inventory Project. An additional item, 6.2, Ava Barnett, SMPL Design Studio, respecting support for the notice of intent to demolish the building located at 345 Mountain Brow Road, and that is for today's meeting. Under consent, we have 7.4, delegated approval, heritage permit application HP 2022-014, the restoration and replication of portico at 64 James Street South, Hamilton Ward 2, bylaw number 86-263. Under 7.5, the Policy and Design Working Group meeting notes of May 16, 2022. And under general information, 13.2, Ontario Heritage Conference recap.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have a mover and a seconder on the motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I see Graham, I see Councillor Pearson, and yes, Robin, we can hear you.
Thank you.
And is there anyone opposed to the approval of the agenda as amended? Seeing none, that item is carried. Are there any declarations of interest today? Seeing none, we'll move on to our approval of the previous meeting minutes. Item 4.1 is our meeting minutes of June 10th, 2022. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I see Janice, and I need a seconder. I see Chuck.
May I have a motion to, is there anyone opposed to the approval of the? Seeing none, that item is carried. We move on to our delegation requests. We have before us delegation request 6.1 from Dr. S. Sheehan and item 6.2 from Ava Barnett. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve the delegations as presented?
I see Janice, and I see Graham.
And is there anyone opposed to the approval of the delegation? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under consent items, we have several consent items to be received today. We have items 7.1 to 7.5. Are there any questions on the specific items? Seeing none, may I have a motion to receive items 7.1 to 7.5?
I see Chuck, and I see Karen.
And as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. And we move on to our staff presentations. So before us, we have item 8.1 is the request to designate 39 Lakeview Drive, Stoney Creek, under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, PED 22146 in Ward 10. And Stacey Kursakowski, Cultural Heritage Planner, is here with a presentation and report. Welcome, Stacey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Just a little high-level overview on the report before us. Third-party designation request was brought forward in 2011 by a previous owner's daughter. In 2012, a staff report was brought forward to add it to the designation work plan. Over the past number of years, the owner has been heavily engaged with cultural heritage planning staff regarding the status of the property. And as such, staff retained MHBC through the city's roster program to conduct a cultural heritage assessment of the property. And Vanessa Hicks from MHBC is here to provide an overview of the findings and their recommendations. So I'll hand it over to Vanessa.
Hey everyone, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen and take you through a presentation. Let me just see if I can alter my screen so that I can see all of you while I'm talking to you. Okay, this is great. This feels like, this is wonderful. Kind of feels like a James Bond kind of setting. I really like this hybrid meeting. It's wonderful. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today and to present to you my findings on the property located at 39 Lakeview Avenue. We were retained by the City of Hamilton to undertake a report on the property and ultimately determine whether or not the property has cultural heritage value or interest, and secondly, whether or not the property should be designated under the Ontario Heritage Act and what our recommendations are if conservation is warranted. So the property is located near the intersection of the QEW and where it meets Fruitland Road, and it's located on the north side of Lakeview, and it has frontage on Lake Ontario. The property was until recently a flag-shaped lot, and the owners, to my understanding, recently added a portion to the property, making it essentially a long rectangular shaped lot. So you can see that on the screen there. The third image that you're looking at is a snippet from the city's website noting the heritage status. So currently the building is listed non-designated on the register. So this is a view of the front elevation of the building if you were to walk by it on the street. It is a single-story red brick Regency style dwelling. Now, one of the important aspects of our evaluation was to determine how the building has changed over time, and this is important in determining cultural heritage value. So this photograph is really important in determining how the building has changed over time and essentially whether or not its original heritage attributes have been retained and how they've been altered. So what you're looking at is a photograph of the building. The date is unknown, but I do believe it's early in the 1900s. And you can see that the building has three distinct sections. Oh, sorry. And we provided an analysis of what is there now and what was there based on this historic maps as well as this historic photo, which is very helpful. So based on the direction of the chimneys and the elevations and the features, we determined that what this photograph is depicting is the west elevation of the building, and the portion of the building outlined in red is original. It's the original red brick Regency portion, and then there were two distinctly different rear additions. And you can see that it had what is likely a brick addition at the rear, which is constructed in red brick, and then another addition which is outlined in white, which is, it looks to me like it's definitely a wood frame dwelling. And what I believe, based on all of the records that we were able to obtain from various sources, is that when the property was first purchased in the 1850s by James Hill, the original owner, they lived in a log house. And it's possible that this removed rear addition was that log house. And then it's common for people to live in log houses, and then after time, they build more substantial buildings. So since this photograph, probably in the early to mid 1900s, these two rear portions have been removed. So all that's really remaining is this red outlined original portion of the building. We also have other photographs that can tell us how the building has changed over time and approximately when. The building originally had all of the typical components of a representative Regency style building, including the red arrows pointing into the paired wood brackets and the wood frieze board. French-style windows had already been removed from this particular time period. So you can see the photograph below, which shows you that there is distinct evidence, very clear, that the building originally had longer French-style windows, which extended down to the porch, and that was removed by this time. The building also had the typical doors with transom and side lights. This is a snapshot of the building, an aerial photo from the 1960s. We can clearly see, and I know it's a little fuzzy on this particular building, probably even more so for you, but the red outline indicates the original portion of the Regency building. There used to be a detached garage that's outlined in white, and it's very difficult to see, but we really don't know what was going on as far as the additions at this particular point in time. I just think it's too fuzzy to tell. But it's very clear that by the 1990s, those additions had been removed and a new addition had been constructed. We're not sure exactly what point in time that was constructed, but I think it was probably around the 1900s, turn of the century mark. And then you can see the original portion of the building and an attached garage and contemporary additions. These contemporary additions outlined in blue and yellow were constructed at some point around 1990, and maybe the garage possibly a bit earlier. So this is a snapshot and a description of how that building evolved over time and the various portions of the building which are of cultural heritage value or interest and those which are not. And it's very clear to us that the portion of the building which is really of interest is the portion in A, and to a lesser extent, the portion in B, D, and C being contemporary and not of cultural heritage value or interest. So after reviewing the history of the property ownership, and we did a site visit and determined what the condition of the building is. And from just looking at the building, you know, I'm a heritage planner, I'm not an engineer, but there are severe masonry issues that would need to be considered in a situation like this. And there are pits in the bricks that are in excess of 3 inches, and the mortar is just crumbling with just the touch of a finger. There are also other severe issues related to masonry at the foundation. So in conclusion, our evaluation of the building determined that the property does have value under Ontario Regulation 906. It has design physical value as an early building constructed in the Regency architectural styles in the 1850s. I'm hesitant to say that the building is representative because so many changes have been taken over time that the building really, to me, doesn't fit that representative category, but it would if those alterations had not been made that are not contributing to the value of the building. The property has direct associated value with James Hill and his descendants as early Euro-Canadian settlers of the township. And it has some contextual value, having scenic value, being at a nice location on the shore of Lake Ontario. And it is no longer part of a unifying 19th century built form. The context has changed considerably. It's no longer part of a farm complex, and all of the properties adjacent are now single detached contemporary residential. So it really doesn't speak to its context anymore because it's changed so drastically. Condition and integrity is something that is identified as in the Ontario Heritage Toolkit as needing to be considered when long-term conservation is being contemplated. There are, like I said, issues with integrity. The building's been compromised, and there are severe issues with condition, particularly with the masonry. So this is the guidance document from the Ontario Heritage Toolkit, which identifies that integrity is a question of whether or not the surviving physical features or heritage attributes continue to represent or support the cultural heritage value or interest of the property. For example, a building that is identified as being important because it was the work of a local architect or has been altered without consideration of design may not be worthy of long-term protection for its physical quality. So I think that's just some direction from the toolkit about integrity. And the Ontario Heritage Toolkit also identifies that condition absolutely needs to be considered when determining whether or not the building could be conserved over the long term. So in conclusion, our recommendations identified that the property does have cultural heritage value or interest. However, we identified that there are options for how to proceed. And essentially those two options are to designate or not to designate. That's always the question. And ultimately we determined that due to the fact that the building has been altered and because there are very limited attributes that would be able to be conserved, our preferred alternative is to not designate the property, and we provided some recommendations that the building remain listed, and if a demolition permit be if a demolition be pursued in the future, the property could be mitigated, including documentation and commemoration. But I don't think that there's any policy trigger or mechanism to make the property owner do that. That's just our ideas and recommendations of how that story of that building could be conserved. And if designation is pursued under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, I don't see this as being a good candidate for designation, but if the city did proceed with that, I would seriously recommend that the attributes for the building be scoped down, given that there's so little left of the building. That's my presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Do we have any questions from our committee members? So we'll start a speakers list. I see Graham has his hand up first.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Graham.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. What is the property owner's desire with this?
I can answer that through the chair. I had a discussion with the property owner. I believe they're in attendance, so I can say that I had a discussion with the property owner after doing my site visit, and they are not in favor of designation. But I can also let staff or the property owner speak to that if they wish to, or if they're present. Not sure about that part.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. That is correct. The owner is not in favor of designation. It was brought before the city through a third-party designation request. So the owner has been working with various cultural heritage planning staff for the last 10 years, and they are not in support of the designation.
Thank you, Stacey. So next we have Councillor Pearson. Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
Yes, good. Sorry, just have to get to the button fast enough. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess I would, before I speak to this, if I could ask, I am not sure if the homeowner wished to speak. If not, I have no problem in speaking to this item. So if I could just ask you, Madam Chair, does the homeowner wish to speak? I just want to be sure that they aren't shut out. If they just wish to participate and listen, that's fine.
Mr. Proteus, did you wish to say a few words to the committee? I currently have you muted and your video is turned off, so we can't see or hear you. Councillor Pearson, if we can just give him a moment.
Yeah, that's fine. I knew they were having some technical issues, and I know down by the lake, it's not always, it's sometimes a hit and miss in signals.
Oh, okay.
I know I take my phone down there and I might be driving along and on Bluetooth and bang, it's gone. And I went, what happened? Well, I don't mind going ahead. I don't want to hold committee up. So I want to thank Stacey for the report, and Vanessa for certainly the intensive report that was done. I think it was over 100 pages. I did scan through all of it. And I want to thank certainly Mr. and Mrs. Proteus for their patience. I didn't support it back when this came forward. Let me just get a little bit of history for the committee members here. So back in 1991-92, Stoney Creek, we created our own local architectural heritage, conservation heritage committee. And I was one of the initial members on this committee, and we had a very, very strong presence with the community, heritage community, which I'm sure if people remember some names would be Mary Lewis and of the Lewis family, and our staff. At that time, we did intensive, and when I say it was a cooperative, it wasn't a matter of sending staff out. We went out, staff went out. We did an intensive search through the whole city at that time, and came up with a list of 50 properties that we incorporated on the potential designation list. We didn't do things like they're done now because we approached homeowners. We had a separate committee that approached homeowners in interest. But this particular property, if I have to say, and it was an annual review, we would all get together in one large van and we would drive through the whole city and town and see whether there were other properties of interest that could be added. By the time of amalgamation, the city had designated 25 properties, and we still had approximately 25 left on the list. This property was never listed. We drove by, I'm sure, many times because I know Edgewater Manor, which is just down the street, was in the vicinity, but there was no interest at the time in designating this property. As has been advised in the reports, there's very, very little context or material that really enhances the historical value of the design of the building or the era, etc. So respectfully, I don't want to belabor this. I know the residents have been very patient. I've been working with staff, asking them to bring this forward. I would certainly support the recommendation of removing this that we remove it, that it not be designated, and that the subject property, so A and B, and that the subject property located at 39 Lakeview Drive be removed from staff's designation and work plan. And I would remove C. I don't believe there's tangible items that would go in a log that would have any substance to a future on a heritage item. So I would respectfully, if someone wishes to second that, I would certainly move that it be removed from the heritage work plan. And this was an extensive amount of work done by staff.
Councillor Pearson, just for clarification, it's Lorraine Kohler from the clerk's office. Did you say that you were suggesting that subsection C be removed from the recommendations, or did I mishear you?
Yes, I recommend item A and B and C be removed so that we do not require them to do a documentation and salvage report. I don't believe they're sufficient, and I think Vanessa's really captured everything, saying there's not a lot there. I mean, if you might have a piece of trim, might be, or something, there's not a lot that's tangible.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And Robin, I do see you on the speaker's list.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I would second that, but I would add that the property go onto the registration instead of just being listed for future considerations.
So that's what the recommendation is, Robin. So it would be on the register.
Correct.
Register now.
So I think we'll get some clarification just from staff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I think I've misled the committee too. I was moving that it be removed from the register. That was the whole intent of bringing this forward.
Madam Chair, if it helps, I will share the recommendations on the screen and then everybody can see them. Just give me a moment.
It is registered.
Okay. You should be able to see the recommendations now on the screen.
Yes, that's what we're recommending.
Do you want to speak on the mic?
Stacy, could you provide some comment?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So staff's recommendation, the property is currently on the it is currently registered. Staff's recommendation is that it stays on the register, but it be removed from staff's designation work plan. And the intent of keeping it on the register is tied with recommendation 3, that should a site plan application be brought forward or a notice of intention to demolish, that the documentation and salvage report be provided along with that to give the full contextual and information document with our files. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy, for clarifying that. Robin, did you have further questions?
No, thank you for that clarification, because what I heard in the presentation that it was on the list, not on the registration. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Pearson, did you need, are you okay with that summary, or would you still like to move
I'm
forward?
okay with summary, but that's not what I wanted to recommend. So my recommendation is to simplify it, is that the subject property located at 39 Lakeview Drive, Stoney Creek, be removed from the staff's designation work plan, and which also would remove it from the city's register. I would just stand by B, that it comes completely off. So A and B, or A and C, be removed, and only B be approved.
Okay.
Robin removes his second.
Okay, so we have Janice on our speakers list. So Janice, do you have a question, comment?
Yes, just to follow up with Stacy, the inventory and research working group met, and this property was discussed and brought forward to us, and it was our decision that this be removed from the designation work plan, but the property maintain its current status and remain on the register. So I cannot support Councillor Pearson. Thank you.
Vote on the amendment proposed by Pearson and McKee. See what happens with the vote, and then the recommendation. Yes?
So Ken,
Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to get clarity on the motion moved to change here, that the subject property located at 39 Lakeview Drive Stoney Creek remain on the city's register. If that recommendation is removed, it is on the register now, so it will stay on the register. So you would need Councillor Pearson to change that recommendation in your motion, that the subject property be removed from the registry, and section B and then would be removed from the designation work plan, and that item C be deleted. I believe that's what you're looking for, Councillor Pearson?
That's what I'm looking for. It's just very confusing the way it's been laid out, and I don't think we've ever had one like this. So be removed from the register as a non-designated property. That's the recommendation here. So that item A, that it be removed from the register, and that the subject property be removed from the staff's designation work plan. And item C is that staff that the remove the requirement for documentation and salvage report. Should the property, I guess that's only if something was to be demolished on the property.
So just to clarify, the amendment is to remove from register, remove from staff's work plan, and that there's no protection on the property, is in essence. Yes.
Through you, Madam Chair, revise A
Okay.
to take it off the register,
Okay.
keep item B, and remove item C is a motion that I understand is in front of everyone right now.
If you'll just give me a moment, Madam Chair, so I can put that up on the screen properly.
Just while Lorraine is doing that, is there anyone else that has any questions or comments in regards to this matter? Karen has her hand up. So go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. Through the chair, I had a question around if we leave it on the register as was originally proposed by staff, is that any further work for people? It's not, or is it just that it gives us a notification if there's an intent to demolish?
Stacy, would you like to respond, or Ken?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. There would be, through the official plan policies, there would be a permission for staff to require a documentation and salvage report should we receive a site plan application or a Planning Act application or a notice of intention to designate, and it would allow us the 60 days as opposed to if it were removed from having any status, we would not have any notification about the intent for demolition.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you for your patience. Thank you, committee. I'll show you the recommendations as amended currently. I believe that's the one. Okay. I believe that, yes. Okay, you can see that in front of you now, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we've made the revision to item A to remove from the city's register, leave item B, and then delete item C. So this is the amended motion before us that we'll do our initial vote on. So we have a mover and a seconder. So we need to do, so the question is there anyone opposed to this amendment?
I withdrew my second.
Oh, we would,
Okay, Madam.
I cannot support this.
Okay, that's fine. Can I get another seconder on Councillor Pearson's amendment, please? Stop sharing so you can see the screen.
It's off the table.
There is none, what happens?
Sorry, I couldn't see the screen there for a moment. Is there anyone on the WebEx or in the room that wishes to second Councillor Pearson's amendment? Councillor Pearson, I do not have a seconder.
It's fine.
Therefore, the amendment cannot go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the recommendation stands as it is in the report.
So we have before us the motion. Do we have a mover and a seconder for the, I guess actually we should receive the report. Do we go back to our process, the presentation? Yeah, we'll go back to our, sidetracking. First off, is there any further questions in regards to the property of the report? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation that we've seen today?
I see Janice and Graham.
As we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? So again, I thank you, Vanessa, for that in-depth presentation. We really do appreciate all of that information that was provided to us. And as we move on to the report, we have the staff's recommendations. Is there any questions in regards to the report that was before? Robin, do you have a question about the report?
No, I was just voting.
Oh, okay, no problem. We have before us the recommendations that Lorraine has provided for us on the screen. If there's no further questions, may I have a mover and a seconder to approve the report?
I see Janice and Graham.
And as we move forward in the vote, is there anyone opposed?
I see Councillor Pearson. Councillor Pearson, do you wish to be marked as opposed in the minutes? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, please.
Will do.
So seeing that, that item is carried. Thank you, everyone. And as we move forward, we move to item 10.1 is the Inventory and Research Working Group meeting notes of April 25th, 2022, respecting 39 Lakeview Avenue, Stoney Creek. So as a reminder to this committee, this recommendation was deferred from the last meeting. So is there any questions in regards to this item? If not, may I have a mover and a seconder to approve the recommendation made by the working group, which again was the Inventory and Research Working Group recommends that 39 Lakeview Avenue, Stoney Creek be removed from staff's designation work plan and the property remain its current status to remain on the register.
I see Janice and I see Karen.
And as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Item 10.2 is a notice of intention to demolish the building located at 345 Mountain Brow Road in Flamborough, being a non-designated property included in the Register of Property of Cultural Heritage Value or Interest, PED 22168 in Ward 15. So we have Chloe Boucher, Cultural Heritage Planner, is here to answer questions on the report. Do we have any questions? No? Chloe, is there anything you wish to say in regards to the report?
Through you, Madam Chair, thanks for the introduction. I would just note that, again, this property is a listed or registered property, and we received a notice of intention to demolish the building. We can see the staff recommendations here that no action be taken and that the property be removed from the register only following demolition, should the owner's plans change. I would also note that we do have an agent here who's provided a delegation request should they wish to answer any questions on behalf of the owner. Thank you.
Again, do we have any questions or comments that anyone would like to say? No? Okay. If there's no questions or discussion, may I have a mover and a seconder to approve the report?
I see Graham and seconder, please. I see Lynn. Thank you very much.
We will now vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, then that item is carried. Thank you. At this time, we'll now discuss our list of buildings and landscapes, and we will, if anyone has any additions or removals from the list, we can discuss this as we go through. If we can start a speakers list as to those that would like to do updates. Lorena, I'll start her list. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with, I think Janice had her hand up first. Janice, go ahead.
Yes. Forgot. Sorry. 13.1A in the red, endangered buildings and landscapes. Number 16, XV1, Television City. The latest update is that the developer has 15 months left in his permit, and there are so many conditions to be met that according to an architect that sits on our board in the Durand Neighborhood Association, it is impossible for him to satisfy those numerous conditions. So it looks like Television City will be sitting in limbo, and property standards continue to be an issue, and many residents in the area are watching and are calling regularly to check in on that property. So currently they have a sign up saying guard dog, but there is no guard dog because I've gone up to the front door. Thank you.
No other updates, Janice? That's okay. Graham, go ahead.
That's one of my new properties being St. Giles on the corner of Holton and Main Street. I went down there yesterday to take a look at it, and the property is a pigsty, not necessarily what you can see driving by on Main Street, but along the east side of the building, there's garbage, rotting meat, broken computer parts, crumbling bricks, signs of people living in the alcoves. There was trespassers on the property while we were there, breaking up something in behind, and we have no idea what it was because I didn't want to trespass myself onto the property. The place is looking to be a real dump. The property owners, New Vision Church, are not doing enough to protect the building and keep it clean for the neighborhood. They're like with the squatters and stuff going on there. The neighbors are getting frustrated. They're calling property standards like municipal law enforcement and aren't getting any action themselves. They've contacted the ward councillor and haven't heard back from her about the condition of the church. There was also a delegation went into the building a couple of days ago. The resident wondered what was going on. The neighbor was wondering what was going on, but there's like apparently 12 people along with Reverend Sloan went into the back of the building and were in there for a while. But she didn't see him come back out, but there's a long time meeting. So she's praying that was a sale, but we'll find out.
Any other further updates? No? Okay, thank you, Graham. Karen, you're next on the list.
Thank you. I have one update. The property that I brought to the attention last month, 3 Main Street in Dundas, the Dundas Masonic Lodge, that was put up for sale, and actually an offer to purchase was accepted just after our last meeting on June 13th. And so the newspaper said that it's anticipated to close in the end of August, and at that point anticipated to find out who the purchaser is, and maybe we'll hear more about what their plans are. So it's still definitely a property of interest because we really don't know what's going to happen with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Any other speaker? Oh, Robin, if you're there, would you mind turning your video on, if that's possible? Okay, thank you. And is there any other updates on properties? Before we move on, is there any additions or, oh, Robin, you wanted to provide an update? Okay. Go ahead, Robin.
Just the Akhmar estate. The city sent us, the Friends of Akhmar, a email saying that this Saturday, the 16th, not this Saturday, the 16th, they are going to start having tours. You pay for the tours, and that there'll be 3 tours per day. And the money is going to be donated to the United Way. I find that a little odd when the building itself needs funding. So why would you have a fundraiser and give the money away? So just a thought.
Robin, just to clarify, who is running the tours?
We received the email from Summers, John Summers, the manager of Cultural.
Oh, so it's a city-run tour?
Yes. And with interpreters.
Oh, okay. So maybe we need to find out a little bit more information.
Correct.
If staff could, maybe.
It seems a little vague, and why the money is going out of the system and not into the building.
Robin, it's Lorraine from the clerk's office. Would you be so kind as to forward me the email, please?
Say again?
Would you be so kind as to forward me the email, please?
Diane Dent has that.
Well, I think, Robin, what Lorraine's asking is the email that you received. Can you just forward that to Lorraine?
Yep, I could do that.
Thank you. Ken, did you have a comment that you wanted?
Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to remind members of the committee, please do not trespass. Graham, thank you for noting that. I
have a speech for that. So
yeah, okay. Okay, thank you for that. I did want to note there's a property that is not here that has come to our attention. That's 175 Lawrence. It is the Old Century Brick Facilities. There is an owner who's very sympathetic to the heritage, and they have undertaken a heritage study, and they are recommending certain aspects of demolition, which is within their right as the way the building is currently not designated. But they will be moving forward with some partial demolition, probably relatively soon. But we will be coming forward to the inventory and research group to share their study. It's very in-depth about the history of the site and the building for possible future considerations for designation of different parts or how that property may move forward. So just an FYI for the committee.
And further to that, did you notice there's the listing for sale for that property? Yeah, it was sent to me the other day.
So is there a wish to add this property to our list of properties? Yes. I think,
You took over. Yes.
Well, if I got Gage Park, I might as well add that, it's just around the corner.
okay. So we need a motion, to add that property to our list, and then what level, whether it would be at red or yellow. So Graham, did you want to put that motion forward?
Okay, I'll put it forward and bring on the yellow.
Do we have a seconder to add that property to the?
Thank you, I see Janice. And Graham, you will be the monitor of that property?
And that was under yellow category?
Thank you.
And so as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried, so we'll add that to the properties. Is there any other updates anyone would wish to give? If not, okay. In that case, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive those updates?
I see Karen and I see Lynn.
And as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Item 13.2 is our Ontario Heritage Conference recap. Janice, Graham, who would like to speak? Go ahead, Graham, go ahead.
Well, as you know, Alyssa, Janice, and I attended the Brockville Conference on behalf of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee, and it was quite a well-done event, and enjoyed it. Janice and I started with the meet and greet at the Aquatarium, and there we ran into a whole bunch of young, enthusiastic planners. They were awesome kids to run into. And they told us about the railway tunnel and being open, and we went, Janice and I walked through it, and I got to tell you, it's amazing. I wish we had one like it. It's like a kilometer long, and you're 50, 60 feet below the ground, stalactites hanging down, a little bit of water. It was a rainy day, so it was rainy inside as well as outside. It was unreal, but a beautiful, beautiful facility. I really enjoyed it, but hopefully we can hire some of these young, enthusiastic people to come to our staff, maybe get more than 3 planners on our staff so we don't overburden our staff like we have been lately. On the opening day at the Arts Center, we ran into, the keynote speaker was given by Miranda Jimmy. I encourage anyone to look her up on the net and try to find one of her speeches. The woman was absolutely wonderful. She knew her subject, was very positive. It told us how we as heritage people should do more to include Indigenous concerns. And the one thing that really was the takeaway was nothing for us without us, meaning we don't talk about Indigenous matters without having Indigenous people included, which I think is very important that we do that. Then afterwards, the next day, she joined our table for dinner, and again, further inspired. What an amazing woman. I did the session with the cultural heritage landscapes, and that was kind of interesting. 3 different viewpoints, 3 different ways of getting things done. But basically what we did in Ancaster is being very much encouraged. It was a very good idea for how to give some protection to properties. What else do we do? Alyssa and I went to the Heritage Security and Accessibility one, and that just showed you how little we actually think of people with disabilities when it comes to heritage. We have to do more. We have to be a little more inclusive and encourage architects and planners to make accommodations so people with limited abilities can get into spaces and experience the heritage. And if we can't get them into the space, we have to bring the space to them, either through remote access or other means. But anyways, very well done. Really encouraged. I really enjoyed the event. I think the only thing that Janice and I both were disappointed with, and Alyssa as well, was the lack of any walking tours. If you ever get to Brockville, the first thing you'll notice is how many stone buildings actually exist in such a small area. Like there's probably more stone buildings in that 15,000 resident town than there is in the entire city of Hamilton of 500,000 residents. It was stunning when you were there, and it's really worth the visit. Anyway, that's my report.
Well, very difficult for me to follow that, Graham. You are just the master. I just would like to thank the Planning and Economic Development Heritage team for allowing us the opportunity to attend this conference. As with Graham, Miranda, Jimmy, it was difficult listening to her, and she showed a video. She is the National Trust manager of the Truth and Reconciliation and Inclusion, I think if I've got that title correct. And she interviewed survivors, and the clip that she showed us probably had some of us in tears. It was very difficult to watch. And I came away, I have goosebumps, sorry. I came away feeling really badly that, and not our fault, I mean truly the fault of colonialism, and I've learned that. I know I learned nothing. So it's a whole learning process all over again, and I truly think differently every time I think I step on our land. And she asked us to ask the tough questions, and it was inspiring. As for all of the other sessions I attended, there was so much variety. It was really difficult to choose, and I tried to concentrate on the young people, so I did go to a few other sessions where we were dealing with the young people, and I happened to be fortunate enough to sit at a table with very young people that still didn't have jobs, and Alyssa Golden sat down, and she was the hero of this table. They just pummeled her with questions, and so she was a true advocate for the city of Hamilton and our heritage department. The panelists left me with more questions than answers. So it truly was an experience where I want to delve more. A little bit of that knowledge was not enough. The sessions were only, 45 minutes in length, and then we had to move on, and there was always questions, and there certainly wasn't enough time. So an absolutely amazing event. To the Brockville volunteers and the coordinators of this, super job, absolutely fabulous people. And I know my sister and I are planning a trip, because there is so much to do. There is a path that we can take all the way from Brockville, and we can go right to Trenton. So on our bicycles, which I think would be wonderful. So thank you once again for the opportunity to attend, and for any of the other folks on this committee, if you get the opportunity, I say go. Next year is going to be in London, 2023. It's going to take place right downtown, and there are 7 historic heritage neighborhoods in that area. And I was speaking to Wes, who is one of the organizers from the ACO in London, and he says, we are definitely going to have walking tours. We missed the opportunity to walk, but we made up for it. Graham and I were going off to Fulford Mansion. Oh my God, I was in heaven. And I was just intrigued with the landscaping, and we had a beautiful landscape architect and they're trying to restore those gardens, and their Olmsted gardens. So it was truly fascinating. But we took a walk, 20 minutes, Millionaires Row from downtown, and it was unbelievable. So that was our walk. And one last thing, we did do some funny things. Andrew was very good. He was our driver. Saturday night, we were still there because our train was going out on Sunday. And there was a beautiful, stunning house. And Graham had spotted it somewhere along our walk. We ended up stopping, and of course, we sort of trespassed. Alyssa, Graham, and I.
No, there was no trespassing.
Wandering, and all of a sudden I saw somebody in a dining room window, and I'm going like this. Well, lo and behold, they came out onto the porch, and I thought it was a bread and breakfast. It was a place for recovering addicts, but they were delightful and gave us a lot of history. I said, you probably don't even want to leave here. And they said, yeah, we actually don't. Thank you. It was a wonderful experience.
I don't know how I follow both. No, it was a really excellent conference. Again, kudos to the volunteers. It actually wasn't the Municipal Heritage Committee that was able to put that on. It was a group of volunteers from the local Heritage Society that had actually put on, with everything that happened with COVID and some cancellations in other locations. So they really did pull a really diverse conference together, and there was so many different people from various locations. So we got to be able to, talk to all of those different municipalities. And learn, some of the fun things, but then also learning about some of the policy changes and those type of things. But I think the one takeaway is we take for granted what resources we have available to us. There's a lot of municipalities out there that don't have municipal heritage committees or a staff team that are working with municipal heritage committee and any heritage planners. So the work that we're able to accomplish is something that, and what staff is, is working through, and all of the things that you do. Some of the municipal heritage committees have to do all of that work themselves. So really appreciate everything that staff does, and the support and the work, and how we're able to sort of, help where we can, but really the bulk of the work happens through the heritage planner. So, and there was a lot of municipalities that was their challenge. That was their, you saw the fear and the anxiety, because as policy changes are being discussed and as items are being talked about, they don't have any support whatsoever. They have to take all of that work on themselves. So, so we are really at a benefit that we're able to accomplish as much as we can as a municipal heritage committee. But if anybody has any opportunity to travel to Brockville, it's a beautiful place. But I really do encourage anybody that's able to go to the next conference in London. That's very good. All right. So that is our update. May I have a mover and a seconder to receive that information?
I see Graham and I see Karen.
And is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. And do you have any new business? Ken?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd just like to kudos to Steve Robichaud for funding your trip to the conference. It's good to see we have in-person stuff happening again, and part of the larger Ontario community around that. So that's great. Unfortunately, I have some news around heritage planning staff. With mixed emotion, I have to announce that Stacy Kurzakowski is leaving us for the private sector. It's been great working with Stacy on behalf of Steve, Anita, Chloe, James, and myself. It's been wonderful working with Stacy. I'm going to miss her, and I'm not looking forward to seeing her on the consultant side across the desk. So I just want to provide that information and ask the committee to be patient with Chloe and I as we try and work through the issues and get some new heritage planners on staff at the city. So we'd ask for your patience and understanding while we're going through that transition. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken, and on behalf of the committee, we really wish you congratulations and good luck moving forward, and we will be nice to you, Chloe, we promise. We always try to be. Ken, on the other hand, he's got broad shoulders. But no, really wish you luck, and we will see you around. I'm sure you'll be presenting some reports to the Municipal Heritage Committee. Is there any other new business? Anything anyone would like to? No? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Do you need any other motions for receiving? No. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I see Graham and I see Chuck.
Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Thank you, everyone. And Lorraine, do you want to summarize just our August meeting, the date for?
I believe it's August 11th. No, yes, sorry. I think it is August 11th. I will confirm that and send out an invitation to the committee if I haven't already done so.
That's the meeting I tried to enter. You've already done it.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. So was it August 11th? Is that what I said?
Yes, it is.